So I was going to be doing core reviews today anyway. So I thought let's just do it together. Has anyone got any questions before I just jump into it?
I've got a question. It's Alex here.
Hey, Alex.
Thanks for writing me. Yeah, sorry I can't do a video now. My question is a bit too far-fetched, but I'll channel back. So, this initiative with GitLab and making pull requests in GitLab or merge requests.
Yep.
Do you know how far that is?
I know that at the moment it's blocked. The DA only have a limited amount of developer resources, and like everyone, they have a backlog and they have priorities. And at the moment, their main two priorities are Drupal 9, changes that need to happen on Drupal.org. So we need to get support for, well, there's been a lot of changes for Composer, which in 8.8 around first-class support for Composer, and I think they're nearly done on that. The other one that they're working on is getting localized.drupal.org to work with Drupal 9, and then they've got some other things that they have to get working on for Drupal 9 around contrib version numbers versus. After they've done that, I'm pretty sure they GitLab pull request stuff.
The reason I'm asking this is I'm just
patch is stuck.
Basically, for me, it's the primary reason to not contribute, or not if you not contribute to it's very hard. I basically contribute only for to contrib modules, and it's already quite hard with all the interdivs and divs, and then you just starting going to this crazy, never-ending threads. You're reading them, and I don't even know how you guys do it. So it's obviously you probably I don't know how you guys do it, but it's already complicated, right? So the whole merge request idea just is that thing. So this is what I have another question. So it looks like you guys have some tools, right, that allows to, do something like browser extensions, and I know there's a Composer tool that allows you to submit patches and stuff. Are you going to talk about this today?
I wasn't going to. I was going to talk about Dreditor, which is the browser extension, but I wasn't going to talk about. I don't use any other tools other than Dreditor, to be honest. Everything else I've got is just Git. I think I have one Git alias, which is git fetch patch, and I give it a URL, and it'll just fetch and apply the patch for me. And that I'm happy to share that. I think my Git alias is already in Gist somewhere. And I'm pretty sure Kim's got a better version of them. He forked them, so I'm happy to share that. But yeah, I don't use. I know there are tools for the command line, but I don't use those.
All right, cool. Thanks, man. I'll just be quiet. Thanks.
So yeah, basically they're blocked behind the Drupal 9 stuff, and then they're moving on to that. And I do understand that is a barrier for a lot of people. And for me, I started contributing back in the days of CVS, which was before Git was a thing. So just had Carl join. Hey, Carl, how you going? How's it going? Yeah, so back in the day, I started contributing before Git was a thing, was CVS. So patches were kind of first nature for me, and obviously moved to as Git became a thing and pull requests became a thing. For other projects, obviously we work with that, but yeah, it's not something that it's never been a barrier for me, but I can appreciate it is for other people. One thing that the patches does give us is, for example, there's a patch to remove the Easy RDF module from one of our, Easy RDF Composer library from one of our dev dependencies for Drupal 9, because it doesn't support PHP 7.4, and we want to move to 7.4. We want to support 7.4, and so in the last week and a half, myself and Amjad from UQ basically been working on that when we've got spare 5 minutes here and there, and that's where the patches and interdiff have worked well, because we don't need to have a shared Git repository that we both have push access to in order for that to work. We can collaborate just by way of here's an interdiff adds on top of your last patch, and that's probably something we could coordinate between two of us, because we're both in the same time zone and we're both in the same channels. But the reality of it is, most of the Drupal core development happens around the clock. particularly when it gets close to the pointy end on like deadlines. You might find someone in Australia works on something, and then Europeans come online at about 5 o'clock and they push it on a bit more, and then the US comes on. So patches and interdiffs kind of come out of that necessity that I know that one of the requirements that the GitLab staff has to have is that basically anyone can push to each issue branch, so that that collaboration can happen without the need to grant the permissions in advance, which is one of the shortcomings of the GitHub model. But anyway, all that aside, we were going to talk about reviews today. So the first thing for reviews is you should get the Dreditor plug Drupal extension, browser extension, Firefox. Yeah, so Brian just got this republished for Firefox. If you haven't got it, add it, and same for, there's a Chrome version of it. But what that gives you on any Drupal issue is next to any patch file, it gives you two buttons. It gives you a review and a simply test.me button. So if you haven't seen these before, what these basically do is you can hit review and it sort of takes over your browser and makes it into like a diff viewer, and you can pick on the things and you can like write comments to go with it. And
sorry, Lee, we're not seeing your screen.
oh, yeah, good one. Present now a window. Is that better?
Yep.
Sorry,
that's good.
Yeah. So when you add the Dreditor extension next to any patch file in a Drupal.org issue, you get these buttons. So these are patches that you worked on. This is pure coincidence. So when I hit review on this button, I get to see your diff, and it's formatted nicely like you would see on GitHub. And I can actually like select items like I can on GitHub, and I can write some comments on it and save those. And you can paste at the very end, and that will paste in a review. It's already got it formatted in code tags, and it's got a list items so that they're numbered. So yeah, that makes a job of reviewing stuff much easier. And there's also a simply test.me button, and that will trigger a new project on simply test.me with that patch applied to the branch, and you can like launch a sandbox and evaluate it immediately. So yeah, those two features alone are like invaluable.
Where's that extension again? I can't find
Yes,
it.
so Dreditor. Are you Firefox or Chrome?
Firefox.
Yeah, I'll just paste it in the sidebar here. Yeah, so this is only just returned for Firefox, literally overnight. Brian from Melbourne added this back. It had been gone for maybe 2 or 3 years when Firefox changed to use XPI extensions or signed extensions or some, I'm not sure of the full details, but yeah, it stopped working. So up until that point, people were running like forked versions or all manner of things, but now there's an official one again. Yeah, but it is invaluable. All right, so reviewing the issue queue. Basically, is everyone familiar with the issue statuses, or do you want me to talk to them first?
Lee, sorry, the statuses and labels are actually a very big mystery to me, to be honest.
Yeah,
because
sure.
sometimes you add those labels and then people say, hey, why did you add it? You're not supposed to add them, so I'm not sure how that works.
Are you talking about like tags? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, there are tags, yeah.
Yeah. So for the statuses, I mean, the general issue will start with active. So I'll just go down to the bottom here. This is a long issue. Yeah, they normally start with active when they're first being worked on or someone's working on them. When there's a patch available, you set it to needs review, and that triggers the test automation. So you'll notice here that there's a green test run here and the patch is passed. So moving it to needs review is the trigger for the test automation to run. So once it's needs review, someone will review it. If it fails testing, the bot will automatically put it back to needs work. But if it doesn't, and someone reviews it and comes up with things they want to change, such as this review here, perhaps, you know, someone will change the status back to either needs review or needs work. So yeah, basically, after it's gone through all the reviews and someone feels that it's ready, then it gets moved to reviewed and tested by the community. And once it hits reviewed and tested by the community, that's when you know, some people still look at that queue and review stuff, but generally that's when committers get involved and they review it. And so then they would look at things and, you know, work out whether they think it's suitable and whether it's like against the right version, whether it's the right category and so forth. So just going through those, bug report is pretty straightforward. Like it's a bug, it's something that doesn't work the way it should. And most patches that to do with the bug report will have to come with a test as well. And this is a bug report. So somewhere earlier in the issue, there'll be 2 versions of the patch. And it's typical if you see people to upload a version of the patch that has just the tests like this. So this one here is test only, and it failed. And then this one is the fix. So, you know, you're expecting to see red and then green. And if you put them up in that order, like the failing one first and the passing one second, the bot won't, you know, it won't kick it back to needs work. So the idea behind that is, yeah, you put up the failing only test to demonstrate that we now have test coverage for this bug, and then the pass to demonstrate that you fixed the test, or you fixed the bug. So is that making sense so far?
Oh, yes. Yep.
Yeah, cool, righto. So then, yeah, the other statuses, we've got a feature request. So feature request is fairly straightforward as well. That, you know, indicates that this is a new feature that we haven't had before. Might have a new API. And then we have task, which is generally something like a cleanup. So maybe a patch went in and, you know, there was something that needed to be fixed after it went in. It's not a bug per se, but it's just a cleanup. Task might also be, you know, we want to update some old thing in core to use some new thing. So they're kind of like in between. Support request is pretty straightforward. That's, you know, someone is asking for help with a particular thing, and then plan is where we would an issue that's never going to have a patch. It's just where you want to agree on something. There's a allowed changes document, which is useful for how to evaluate this, and I'll put that in the sidebar as well. But the allowed change doc, this is like the approved policy around what can go into what version. So this bug report is tagged against 8.9.dev, but it could, in theory, it could be eligible to go all the way back to 8.7 because it's a bug, and it depends on the conditions in here as to whether it's allowed to go back. So a patch release is like a, you know, the last number in semver, a minor release is the middle number in semver, and then a major release is the first, you know, so Drupal 9 is the major release, for example. So we allow in patch releases any critical issue, any non-destructive bug fix, anything that's a contributor blocker, so forth. I recommend giving this a read, but in general, bug fixes will go into the next bug fix release, the next point release, next minor release. Next patch release, sorry, and new features will go into the next minor release. So this one is a bug report. It's tagged against 8 and 9 dev at the moment because that's the main development branch. But and we always tag it with the highest version that it can go into. So if we were to commit this issue, it would go into 8.9 and then possibly be backordered to 8.8 and possibly 8.7. So to evaluate whether that's allowed or not, though, we have to look at this. You know, is it a non-destructive bug fix? So if we look back at the most recent patch, the things we're looking for when we look again, whether it's non-destructive or not, are things like API changes. So things like changes to the function arguments or service changes or constructor arguments or the like. Yeah, so maybe let's just go through this patch as an example, right?
Yep.
Cool. Plus up on my Zoom browser, sure. Yeah. So let's just first start by looking at the issue that we're trying to fix here. So when you add a new field to a content type and it's built the configuration for the teaser display mode is lacking reference to the field you just created. The configuration for the teaser display mode will only get updated later once the display mode is used. To reproduce, start with a fresh install of Drupal, export your config, create a new content type and add a new field to it, run just export to export it, open the teaser, you'll see that the new field is not under hidden. So I don't know about you, but I've come across this in an actual site. I know exactly what it's talking about. Have others seen this before? Yeah, so we'll look at the patch, going to use Dreditor to review it. So first things first, there's a new hook being implemented. So this is in the field module and it's implementing hook entity type insert for the field config entity. So if a new field's been created and it's syncing, we don't want to do anything. So field is syncing, this will happen during a config import. So when you import config and it's creating a new field, that will be field is syncing. And in that scenario, we don't want to do anything, so that's fine. But then for all other view modes, allow them to update the configuration for the new field. Otherwise, the view modes won't get updated until the mode is used for the first time. So they're using the class resolver entity hook pattern here. If you're not familiar with that, basically it's kind of like an OO bridge to for hooks. And hooks have to be function names, but this class resolver pattern lets you effectively declare a class, and it's like a service class, but instead of having to have a service definition for it, which would always be in the container, you can get it at runtime. And the benefits of this is it gives you dependency injection, but without the need to declare a service. So you don't have to pollute the container with the service that's only used when someone creates a new field. You don't need that in memory on every page. So let's have a look at this display rebuilder class. So it implements container injection interface, which is how this magic works. So that means it's got a factory method on it somewhere, and that factory method gets the services out of the container. So it needs the entity type manager, needs the display repository, and it needs the bundle info. And the rest of this is just boilerplate. It's got some field class fields and a constructor to populate those. And then the rebuild entity type displays is the only public API this exposes, and that's only called from inside this hook.
Yeah.
And what that basically does is, for that entity type, it gets all of the view modes and it gets all of the form modes. And then it goes through and gets the IDs of each one using array map. And then it loads them up and saves them. And then it does the same for all of the form mode displays. So it's not really doing anything fancy there. It's just loading them and saving them. Yell out if anyone sees anything that they want to ask a question about or want to call out.
I've got a question that it's a weird question, but like the comment for implementation of a hook was not in the in the right format. So how does that work? Like, we're not isn't score scanned using the correct? So there shouldn't be 4 field config there. That should be a single comment.
I think that is actually part of the coding standard.
Well, but that was just sort of that was an example. But if it is, if that would be the case that it's not, would the build bot fail?
Yeah. So the problem with core is that we've got 18 years of legacy code, right? We don't have full coverage for coding standards. If we were to look at
No, sorry. I know that it's not covered and stuff. I'm just wondering.
Yeah. So the bot will fail if it. So what we do with coding standards is, I'll just quickly show you, and we could just, it might make a bit more sense. We have a PHP-CS file in our repo.
Yeah, I've seen that one. Yeah. So it's like has exclusions and stuff.
Yeah, it only has inclusions basically. Hang on,
or inclusions.
Maybe it's back in the root folder. I am definitely going blind here.
Man, sorry, don't take your time on me. That's fine. Yeah, I just wanted to know.
There
So
it is.
basically, the patches won't be accepted. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, these are the things that we don't pass, and these are the things that we do pass. So as someone goes through and fixes, let's say there's a coding standard that core fails. When they fix that in a patch, they also have to add a line to this PHPCS so that it never comes back, right?
Yep.
So that the bot can find it. So this one passing coding standards, like the test passed because it came up as green, it means one or two things. It means either it passed all the coding standards, or it passes, there's a coding standard that we don't have automatically listed in PHPCS that we can automatically test. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, at this point in time, which is inefficient, we still have to rely on manual things for that. And so, I think most of that comes down to just people that have been doing it for a long time and familiar with those off the top of their head. But function, I think there's a section in the coding standards around.
Sorry, do you know if there's an initiative to make the code standards to be 100% compliant?
Yeah, there is.
Because I really want to contribute on that front. Just go and go crazy and fix basically every occurrence of a thing.
There is, but the problem with that sort of patch is we want to do it on a sensible level. So one of the things that we want to do it on is basically I'll post this in the sidebar here, is we don't want to just go fix half a dozen issues in one module. We want to do it scope. And that's something that's
by type of the problem, yeah?
By type of the problem, so that it comes with an actual and here's all the child issues that show that. So for example, these ones are fixed, and so each of the rules has got a thing to go with it. So if any of these child problems, they're the ones that we need to fix as a whole. But one of the problems with this is that these patches can be very disruptive because, as you know, Git, regardless, whatever, as soon as you you patch, you get conflicts in Git. So we have a disruption window where we commit these. So most patches we would commit as soon as they're ready to be committed. But these really disruptive ones that aren't functionally changing anything, we typically put them during the disruption window, which is typically let's say straight after the alpha's cut. We don't want to do it before the alpha because people are madly working trying to get their patches in, and if they have to re-roll them just because of a coding standards patch, we're going to burn people out. So we have these disruption windows, which are typically after the alphas. So if you do work on those issues, then by all means do. Just be aware that they may sit and need re-rolling until when that window comes around, and so that might be after an alpha.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah. And look, everyone will get into better because, like I've said, that manual effort required to look at that, like you just did, and say you don't think this is right, and then you have to go off and have a look that up. And it's like a doc block, PHP Drupal 1346 maybe. There is a specific note about the actual coding standards for function documents. It's not this one though. Oh, here we go. Doxygen. 1354 is the node number. I was close. But there's one on here about hook implementations. So short format, so you're right here. It should have the brackets after it there, but I think it's kind of one of those ones that's a bit rubbery. I personally wouldn't, if this patch solved the real problem, I wouldn't push it back for that only. But if I found something else that in the patch that was they were being re-rolled anyway, then I would call it out, but I wouldn't just for that, if that makes any sense. But if you see anything else, yell out as we go. So this rebuilder doesn't really do much. It's just for anti-type in a bundle, reloads and resaves each of the items. The logic to actually do the updating of the displays is already in the save handler for these. So we're not really adding any new API so far. We've got a test here change. And so for me, my initial thoughts is this feels like could be out of scope. I don't know what's going on here, so I'd probably want to flag this as what's going on here, just like note to self type stuff, because I wouldn't expect to see this change immediately, like off the top of my head, you know, like without looking into it in the patch. So yeah, I'm just going to look at a little bit further into this. So field import, deletion, uninstall UI test. We're deleting something from the configuration sync, and we're also deleting its dependencies. So we have to have a bit of a look into what that test does first to work out whether that's related, or have a look in the comments because someone might have already asked that. So this is kind of the process going through my head. So I would probably just grab that and say, you know, note to self, why is this here? And I'll, you know, if the patch review is happening over a couple of days, or I'm stopping and starting, I just don't want to miss that. So this is a form test. We need to build the hook information after seeing the component through the API. Again, this feels a bit weird. And this read all is a bit of a red flag, because that's effectively like a cache clear all in a test. And as you know, like cache clear all is like a sledgehammer. So, you know, if this was needed to make the test pass, that might be masking an actual issue that people, you know, we don't want cache clearing everything to be the result, the resolution to people's problems, right? So if it's needed in the test, does that also mean that it's needed in elsewhere? I mean, it's a little bit different. Rebuild all takes care of making sure the container in the test runner is up to date with the container in the test site. So you might have to have a look at what this one's doing as well. So again, I'll just note to self on that. And it probably, you know, there's not enough context in this patch for you to work out what's going on. So this is a bug report, and we would be looking for
Sorry,
test.
what did this what did this comment went to?
Where does that come?
Yeah, no, you wrote a note to yourself. Where did it go to? In that comment field?
Yeah, so where this goes is, this is the beauty of Dreditor. It actually keeps this in a buffer. So I can go back and edit that. So now I've got a typo in there. I can go, oh, actually, that should be what's going on here. And so it's basically keeping that in memory in a buffer until I hit paste down the bottom here. Right. I can hit hide if I like, and it brings me back the rest of the site, or I can go show and bring it back down again. But yeah, until I hit paste, when I hit paste, that ends up in the comment field as my actual comment. So yeah, it's kind of like, it's a bit of Dreditor magic, I guess. This is what the extension does. It adds like GitHub-like functionality.
And how do you see the line that you commented on? Because I don't see any.
Yeah, so I don't know if you can see the color change there, but these are yellow. And this is, yeah, so red is like obviously like in a diff is deletion, green is added, and then yellow is where I've commented. So these are the ones I've commented on. I can hover over them and re-see my comment off to the left there. Yeah. So it's essentially the review UI that you have in GitHub, but just as a browser extension. And ideally, this would be part of Drupal.org. But you know, as you mentioned before, getting GitHub, pull request support, merge request support is better use of time than retrofitting this into existing Drupal.org. So yeah, this is a bug, and we would expect to see tests to go with it, because you know, how do we know that the bug's fixed now and into the future? So we're seeing a test here, so that's good. It's a kernel test, so that tells me it's going fast. So one thing I am cognizant of is, you know, tests also add technical debt, and they also add like costs. And so, you know, for example, if we're testing an API and we add a functional test, and that functional test does install Drupal, you know, we're adding to the runtime of tests. So straight up, it's a kernel test, which is good. It doesn't actually install Drupal. It's like a sandbox integration test. You know, it's pretty lightweight, and we're not adding heaps of overhead to a testing system. And yeah, so these are all just class properties, nothing really fancy there. So we're just running through the test. It creates, and basically what we're looking for here is that it mirrors the steps that we reproduced in the original issue summary. So it's creating a new entity view display for entity test bundle, the default view mode. And it puts the config, the view display name, into a variable. So this is like what ends up in the configuration entity as a dependency. Then it creates a form display as well. Entity test default, saves that. Creates a new view mode called foobar and a view display to go with it. So we create a new view mode, save it. We create a new display to go with that view mode. Save that. Put the view names into local variables. Same again for a form mode. So that's all just in the setup. So by the time the test's set up, we've got a view mode and a form mode and 2 displays to go with them, like the default one and then a custom one. So analogous to like this foobar one is like field test, and we put it on the entity test and save it. And we want to make sure that that's triggered, that being added into the hidden fields for that view mode, which is the bug we're trying to fix here. So for me, that looks pretty good. Anyone got any questions or anything they want to ask or comments?
So Lee, sorry, I have a question about like it's not related. So basically, for example, if I have 2 patches in one issue, so shall I check the latest one, or I also need to read the comments to see which one basically is people in favor?
It should be the latest one. So the latest one should be the one that people have said like reviewed and tested against. That's the one you should look at.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know those ones there where I've put note to self, why is it this way?
Yeah.
You know, my first step then will be to go back and read the comments. I mean, if it's a small issue, I'd try and read all the comments first.
Yeah.
If it's 400 comments long, I'm
Yeah.
probably not going to bother, because over that
Yeah.
over that path, it's probably changed 4 or 5 or 6 times. And this is another one of those contributor tasks that isn't the coding task. If I just hide this, we have this issue summary at the top, and it's got like a steps to reproduce and an actual result. And sometimes you'll see issues tagged with needs issue summary update. And so if you've got an issue that you've worked on and you've got it to RTBC, reviewed and tested by the community, it's probably a trigger for you to just go back and have a look to make sure that what's up here is accurate. There is a template for it. Project, actually, node add project issue Drupal. And this is something else that Dreditor gives you for free. So when you go to create a new issue, there's an insert template button there from Dreditor. And if you hit that, it actually fills in all of the blank sections that you should have, like so the problem, the motivation, the proposed resolution, remaining tasks, UI changes, API changes, data model changes, and the release notes snippet, which I'll get to in a minute. But yeah, if you've got an issue that's RTBC that, you know, say for example, this one, Joseph, for example, maybe you're running this patch on GovCMS and it's RTBC and you want to help move it along. You know, what you can do is you can go in and make sure that the issue summary is up to date. This one's not too bad. There's only there's 83 issues, so it's fairly long. But like if committer comes into a 200, 300 comment issue, they don't want to have to read all the 200, 300. So if this issue summary doesn't look anything like the patch, they'll probably stop and say, tag it as needs issue summary update using the tags, which is this here. So needs issue summary update.
So do we have like the official tags, the list of like official tags that we
Yes,
can use?
yeah, there is. And this comes back to Alex's question earlier, so I'll go through that in a minute. But yeah, basically they'll say needs work, needs issue summary update. So there might be nothing wrong with the patch. It just might be that the issue summary, which is what, you know, if someone comes back in, you know, like we were looking at easy RDF before, I was saying we're trying to remove that from RDF test. Yeah, like Amjad and I are working on this easy RDF removal from core. You know, we have to go back and look at why it was actually added. And so we go back to this issue from 2012, you know, and this problem motivation, proposed resolution, you know, that's there for posterity. People know why. So, you know, that's another reason why your issue might get knocked back to needs work. You know, if it says here, proposed resolution, you know, write our own RDF parsing library, and the actual patch adds easy RDF, you know, when we come back in 7 years' time and go, why the hell is this? Did we go this way? And it's completely different. You know, people are going to go, well, what's the story? So yeah, that's why you might get knocked back to these issue summary updates. So that's another non-code contribution that you can do is make sure that it's up to date, so that someone coming in 200 comments old can, basically skip over the 4 or 5 different. We tried this, it didn't work. We tried that, it didn't work. We tried this, and this is where we ended up, and get straight to that. Yeah. Back to the tags. Like I said, there's an issue tag guideline here, which sort of tells you which tags to use. There's a priority one here that tells you how to gauge priority and status. And then there's also that allow changes one that I linked before. The adding tags, there are some special issue tags, and they're listed. So special issue tags are API addition, API change, and these are all kind of listed out on that page. And then there's the needs tags, like needs backport, needs change notification, needs, and in there's needs issue summary update. And so some of these actually have links on how to do that. But I'll put that in the sidebar as well. But these things themselves are significant, like, contribution tasks, and core committers, which we will hopefully get to in this call, the actual commit process, but we're starting to run low on time. We might have to pick it up again next week. But as part of the commit process, down the bottom here, these are all the people that have worked on the issue, and these ones have been automatically ticked because they uploaded a patch of some sort. But these people here may have equally contributed. So the first thing a contributor will do is go through and have a look at each of those usernames and what they've committed, every single comment, see what they've done. So far we're looking at what Anna's done here, and there's just a couple of status changes, so probably wouldn't credit that. Let's have a look for Boriston, and he's set it to RTBC, but not a huge comment, so probably wouldn't credit that. I'm looking for someone that's made issue summary updates, and there's actually there is, when people change the actual issue summary, it'll show up here. Like, see this, it'll say issue summary changes, and so that I would typically look at the diff of that and see how big those changes were. And if someone's taken the effort to significantly rewrite the issue summary to make it more easily approachable for a committer to look at that issue, they get a credit for that as well. So these are non-code contributions, right? But they're still significantly, and they help the patch get in. And the other one that people get credit for is review. So I would credit myself for that here, because this is not an insignificant review. It's like, if it was just nitpicking, you're missing a comma here or you're missing a dot there, I might not. Like this one here, blank line isn't needed, wouldn't give credit for that. But this change here ends up with a whole piece of thing being removed from the patch, and so it significantly changes the the final patch. And so we give a review for that. So someone like and often getting a review for the patch is the part where things slow down. It's easy to put the code up, but getting it through that actual review process is one of the hardest parts. So that's super significant and valuable part of the community. So committers err on the side of giving people credit for that, because we that's something that we really encourage. And you would have seen say in the Tag Cloud Industries keynote yesterday, where there were people's names up on the for people to contribute to Drupal 8.8, I would have it a guess that some of the people that are major contributors in there, a lot of there was non-code contribution. I mean, mine in particular, I probably only worked on 4 or 5 patches in Drupal 8, but Drupal 8.8, but I probably worked on 250 reviews. So yeah, that's a huge. No worries, Alex. We've got about 15 minutes left. Are people happy to keep going? Yeah, cool. Yeah, mate. They do show up with a new comment on them. There is this is running the new thing where it actually shows you, if you go back up the top here, there used to be a link here for ones that you'd already read that you could jump straight to, but typically I'll just look for my own name. So I know that up to this point was my last time I looked at it, and I don't need to go past that. But yeah, what we do sometimes, so this is the comment 61 that it failed. If the issue gets over 300 comments, you get a pager, and there's actually 2 pages of comments. And people that have got publish rights, we'll just go through and delete these or unpublish them so that we get back under that 300 so we don't have the pager, because there is like a cognitive load in getting through all that. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think, yeah, I mean, the good thing about this down the bottom here is not just committers that can do this, but it's anyone that's listed as a maintainer. So there are like people, there's subsystem maintainers and stuff, and that's anyone listed in this list. So it's not a small list. There's a heap of people, right? All those people can change that field down the bottom there. So we'll often find that, you know, you come in here, look at this, and someone's actually done all that work for you, and you'll see, you know, little comments like credit so-and-so, and these ticks here indicate that, you know, that they're getting credit. Someone's already given them that. So yeah, there is like other tasks there that people do that are really helpful. Yeah, so I think we've gone through all those links there. And as I said, that Dreditor add template is invaluable because, and you can actually click it. This one doesn't follow the template. If I were to click it here, it would add the template at the top and say, and it adds an original report, and this is listed under original. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to take this one as needed summary update because it's still accurate, even though it's not following the template. So the test we were happy with, and then there's a change to entity test module here, and we've got to think, what is this doing? So form modes, entity type equals compact, label compact version, status equals true. This just looks like a code style change, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's technically out of scope. And the reason we try to say don't do that because it's out of scope is if this hasn't got anything to do with the patch, it doesn't actually impact the patch. If we commit this and someone's doing something on this actual function that does have a tangible difference and all of a sudden their patch doesn't apply because of a coding style change that was completely like non-critical, you know, then they've got to reroll their patch. We've got to make work for that person. So, you know, we probably should say out of scope here on this. So it feels wrong because it's been RTBC for so long. So I'm just going to highlight it and just have a look back and see why, you know, so why. Note to self. So so far we haven't found anything wrong with this patch other than like things that I wanted to go back and look at. So I'm going to hit paste, and that's going to throw those three note to selves in here. So now I want to go back and figure out why. So the first one was a change to field import. So I'm going to search for that field import. See if there's a comment about it. Yeah, so a JavaScript test is failing that is not in this patch. That test does things with fields, so that is suspicious. Dive in. So blah blah blah. The default display part breaks. Blah blah blah. It invokes the hook, and that triggers a default display that fails the test. So basically, that is related. And so what they're saying is that, you know, with the new hook, when this test saves a field, it ends up creating a brand new one of these displays, and so we have to delete it to make the test pass again. So I can delete that. That's been explained while that's there. So the next one is the rebuild all. So the problem in 60 seems to be when load multiple is called, all hook information gets cached. So after updating the component through the API, the hook cache has no ID that needs to be refreshed, so we need to force it to refresh. Using this route is more than needed, but it shows the problem lies with this test. So this stems from form tests doing API calls in functional tests, which cause the container. It kind of feels to me like, and so again, this goes back to people and how much I know of their work in the past. So I know that Lendude is the maintainer of views in core. I know he's like the initiative, the PHP unit initiative is one of the leads on that. So like when he says stuff to do with tests, that's more reason for me to believe what he's saying. If it was someone who I wasn't aware of, I might have a look into the profile and just have a look at their background and see, you know, whether this is their first comment or whether they've commented it hundreds of times, and, you know, just it speaks a bit to the weight of that comment. But for Lendude, you know, he's saying it might be a bit more than it's needed. So it kind of feels like that's unresolved. Like it kind of feels like we'd expect them to shuffle back and see if there's a less sledgehammer way of doing it. As I said before, this rebuild all is costly. It has a performance cost and might also mask actual failures. So we see NDF has said these are fixing text issues exposed by this patch, but it still feels like that hasn't come back to that. So let's keep seeing if there's any more mention of it. And I've asked for the same thing in comment 73. Can we use less of a sledgehammer approach? Can we just clearly enter your plugin caches that are stale? And it hasn't been addressed again since then. So if we go back to my comment where I asked for that, it was 73.3, and then down here is the next patch to address that. And he said 73.3 shrug, it's a test, and I don't think we have any testing APIs to do this in a subtle manner, left it as is. So for me, that kind of feels like if Lendud said, yep, I don't think there's a better way to do it, and as I said, he was part of the PHP unit initiative, maintain reviews and core, like he, I trust what he's got to say, so I'm going to take that out as well. But I might just say, and this is where the task comes in. Can we get a follow-up issue to explore if we can add some testing API for this? Because, well, the solution here might be that we add a rebuild all for this test, but then, someone else sees that and adds rebuild all, and 6 months
So
down the track.
I saw this rebuild all after in some field like test files, usually after a config change. So,
Yeah.
But
yeah.
this one is slightly different. Yeah, it's a little bit weird.
Yeah, so I think like if we can get a test API for that, then that's good. And I mean, I don't want to obsess over the tiniest detail in a test here, and that's kind of what Lendu's saying to that. But as I said, like tests are like they are code we have to maintain. So we don't just throw stuff if we can't. And then this style change, I think that is out of scope. And okay, so regarding the view modes, I found a strange assumption in blah. I changed that alter to add form mode contact without removing other form modes in this patch, that there's test for default and foo bar. Okay, so that sounds like it needs to be done. So if we have a look back at that code again and reread it, and I think what's happened there is I've not read it properly. So there is a distinction between this. This first one replaces all of them, and this one just adds a new one on top. And so in the test where we're creating the foo bar and we're creating the default, this code here would clobber those with just compact. So that is legitimate change as well. So let's cancel that and go back to the last comment. So the only thing that we're left with is we'd like a follow-up issue to see if we can add some testing API for that. So I'm just going to tag that with needs follow-up. That's an actual one of those official tags. And which one is it? I don't know. So and it's not listed in there either. So it's not a special tag. All right. I'm going to go with, if you're not sure, let's have a look for how many existing issues there are. Yeah, so let's follow up without a hyphen. There's 50 plus, needs follow up with a hyphen. Does that say 50 plus? No, there's one, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right. So the one without the hyphen is right. And so while we're here, we'll do the right thing and we'll fix the tag. And again, this is another non-code contribution, right?
Yeah.
This is release managers in particular really like making sure these tags are nice. Like there's a whole job of doing triage on that. So I'm just fixing the tag. I'll put a comment on there. Fixing the tag. Right. And then the autocomplete won't show me the wrong thing anymore too, I think. It will because it's browser side cached, but without the hash. Yeah, so I'll add that. So, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that patch at all. I'm just going to save my comment. And now I'm up to the stage where I've got to add issue credits. So if you've got 5 minutes to hang on, we'll keep going. Adding issue credits. So we'd already looked at Anniversary, hadn't seen anything. I did a review. Borison, we hadn't done anything bad range. It's just the comments say, why isn't it committed? XJM. Stuff that creates noise in config is major typically, so promoting. Probably should add document coding that. Okay, so nothing there. Next person. We need a reroll. Does anyone know how to make a patch for 8.6? That one doesn't contribute to the patch. Unrelated failure. And I resolved this in other issues by overriding the self container, blah, blah, blah. So that's an unrelated comment. So it's really only my review that I want to add credit for there. And look, if I'm just doing something small, I wouldn't add that, but because I've reviewed it, like, well, I've spent an hour on it now. Also gone through a couple of big reviews there. I'm also going to add you folks because you've sat here for an hour. So just sing out your username, Sime, Joseph. Is it with a space or without a space?
Oh, yes, space, yeah. It's fine. I'm hiding that HIL.
Oh, yeah, are you already in this issue? No.
No, I'm not. My username was special design. Yeah.
Joseph said.
Let's not talk about my username.
What is your actual username?
Let me find it. This may be a case where I explain why I have some.
It's case sensitive.
Yeah.
There we go. Cool.
I'll rename it myself to Panda.
No, that's fine. Yeah. And Fubar, is that right?
Yeah, for my house. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Credits, adding myself for review in 73. And another good thing Dreditor adds, if I type 73 like that and see down the bottom here, this little thing here, I can press tab and it turns that into a link. And it also does that with usernames. I can go at Len. See, and it's giving me suggestions, and it does that too. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. Also adding at sign and Joseph and at Alex. Does anyone know?
The Alex design works, isn't it?
Alex.
We were all pretty close.
Oh, it's just pasted on the top of my other ones. One day I'll work this out. Alex SKRY. Oh. There we go. Right.
There we go.
Oh, I accidentally deleted everyone else's, so. Spelled that right. Right, so the next part of it is to commit it. So in terms of disruption, this isn't, I wouldn't backport this to Drupal 8.7 because it changes config and people's stuff's going to change on them. Like, so they go to a new version and, you know, save stuff, and they're going to get things changing in their configuration are going to go why. So whereas if you do that as part of a minor update, you know, people are expecting that anyway, because update will, those things change configuration and they're going to config export and all that stuff anyway. So we don't want to create noise in people's config. There's just one last thing I wanted to check for, which was something XJM asked for in her review. This hook implementation doesn't explain why it's necessary. We should add a comment doing so. And looks like someone did that there. I don't remember seeing that part in the final patch, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I just want to triple check. Yeah, so it does say why it does it. That's fine. All right, so I reckon this is pretty much good to go. So that's good. The first one we picked, we found one that actually went through the whole process. So what I do is like get URL to that patch. Now it's against the last patch run was against 8.8.x, but I want to keep this to 8.9.x. Now that might be an issue because it hasn't had a green run against 8.9, so it might not apply anymore. Now the bot is supposed to kick it back. It's supposed to test it every day, but it looks like the last time I did that was on the 13th of August. So I'm gonna try and see if it works. So I'm just gonna bring up my terminal if that's okay. And I'll bump up the size a bit. Yep. So people see that, I'm just going to my core folder, and I'm lazy. I don't want to have to remember commands, so I have the make command, and you know, it makes sure my origin's clean and I've got no local files hanging around. And you know, if I was halfway through another patch, everything's up to date. I paste in the URL, it fetches it for me and applies it. I change directory into the Drupal. And I'll do an ls on this, and sorry, a git status on this, and you know, it's what I was expected. So I've just got to get the commit message now. So if I go back to the issue itself, which you can't see, but if you have a look back in the browser at that issue, which we're looking at, which I'll put in the sidebar here, the very last part of the of that credit thing, it gives me the commit message with everyone's usernames in it. So it looks something like this. So I don't have to go and type everything out. And so we have Git hooks that run. So they run Composer install. I haven't done any core committing for the last week and a half. So there's a few updates to make sure everything applies properly. And that Composer still installs. It also does coding standards checks against the changed files. It also does, if there's any JavaScript files in here, makes sure that like the ES6 code, when it compiles, it matches the compiled code, so that, you know, there's been no changes to the compiled JavaScript, only to the ES6 files, and then it's been run through the compiler. So that's what that's doing. That worked. Coding standards, they worked, and it's worked. So it's giving me a message to paste. It's copied that to my clipboard already. So I'll push it. And that all comes from the Git hook. So, sorry, talking to me? And so the only thing that remains is to put that message in an issue. So I'll just go back to sharing the browser again. A window, this one. Yeah, so paste the issue. And now I have to backport it to 8.9 as well. So I've got a make command for that too. I'm not going to do that. So make cherry-pick 8.9. And push that to 8.9 as well. And then the question is whether I push it to 8.8. So as this is a major bug with no disruption this this is eligible for backport to 8.8x. So just doing that in the command line now. CP being cherry pick, right? And so because the smallest branch that I committed to was 8.8.x, I make that 8.8.x and I mark it as fixed. And that's it, we're done. So if it was possible disruption on this, that's when we would tag it as one of those other special tags. And there's a special tag for needs, we've lost the tag, but there's a there's a special tag called needs release manager review. And so the release managers are the people that are responsible for, creating the releases, ensuring the stability between releases, API change rulings, etc. And so, yeah, needs release manager review is used to alert the release manager that an issue significantly affects the technical debt or releases a timeline of Drupal or their sign-off is needed. So that's where you could tag that if it needed to be backported. And I normally would sort of ping them in the back channel and say, what do you think? And, I would err on the side of caution, but yeah, this is a major bug with no disruption, so I just went ahead and did it then. And worst case scenario, can roll it back. So save that with it set to fixed. So in terms of like what of this process is specific to my role as a core committer and what of this process you folks can do, pretty much everything except this last bit, any of you could have done. So the review, you couldn't do this credit bit. But, asking follow-ups, adding tags, like I said before, making it needs release manager, tagging it as needs issue summary update. If you come in and it's 100 issues, comments long, and you go, well, comment 50, we're going to do this, and comment 70, we pivoted to do something else, but the issue at the top still references comment 50. You can do the update or you can tag it for the update. All of those things keep the issue moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, so from the Drupal 7 point of view, if I've got an RTBC queue, I'm not a Drupal 7 maintainer, but I'm a Drupal 8 maintainer. But if we look at the Drupal 7 issue, there's 50 plus issues and there's 3 pages. So there's somewhere between 100 and 150 issues. Yeah. And, there's nothing stopping, these are RTBC, but that doesn't mean they're the same level of RTBC. So, the person that we said before that some people's have got a bit more experience, and so you might find that a patch has been RTBC'd by, a novice and it hasn't got tests or it hasn't got such and such. So, yeah, so let's have a look at this bug report for 7, for example, as an exercise. We're not committers anymore now, right? We're all, because I'm not a 7 committer. So let's have a look at this. Look, sometimes you'll find Dreditor balks the layout like this, because the button changes the layout, but you can still hit that review button. So this is a change to weights. So there is a test for it. So that's the first gate. That's a bug fix with a test. Weights equals array. And look, this is, I'm not going to pretend I'm a qualified comment about this, because straight away I think, wow, that's using the old array syntax. But then when you think about it, Drupal 7 has to work on PHP 5.3. So we have to do that. If it's set, we switch it to an int. If it's not set, let's default value, case sort weights. Yeah, test weights from element default value behavior. So that's just testing that default value gets set. Thanks, Simon. I've got to drop off too anyway, but yeah, this looks okay to me. So there's really nothing to stop that being committed. Let's say there was nothing to stop being committing. So, maybe we look at all the other things to make sure it's got, issue summaries if